Welcome to Straight No Chaser. This week we have a very special guest. We have Ryan O'Neill. He went to high school
What's
with
up,
us.
guys?
He goes to SNHU. Right now he's down in Florida. He just got his certificate for becoming a flight instructor. We're going to ask a bunch of questions. We also have my fellow co-hosts, Abby and Alex. Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for coming on, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. So getting into it, you're in Florida right now. So what has the training been like for like for last 2 weeks, and what's your living situation looking like? I remember you told me you're with a few friends. If you want to just elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, so I've been down in Florida for about 2 weeks now. It took me about a week to get my first flight instructor certificate. I'm down here with a buddy of mine, Eli, that I lived with this past year at SNU, and we
Okay.
were kind of doing the same flight program, kind of in the same spot. So we decided to come down here and do a fast track program to get our certificate. And I'm here with my brother actually, because we're in the same spot as well. Kind of just stars kind of aligned, so we all decided to come down and knock it all out.
Absolutely. I love hearing that. And so what steps have you already taken to get to the flight instructor, like past certificates and past training through SNU? What has led you up to this point?
So my major, I'm required to become a flight instructor and get my multi-engine certificate. So instead of waiting for kind of the pandemic to, to finish, or not finish, but it really like stalled the program a lot up in New England. So in Florida, it was still going. It was operations were in full effect. So we decided to head down here, and instead of taking a full year to get my instructor certificate and my multi-engine rating, we decided to come to Florida and knock it all out in 1 month. So we're kind of staying down here in an Airbnb, and we're doing training 7 days a week, sometimes flying twice a day. So we're building a bunch of time, a bunch of hours, and studying. We're at the airport for like 9 hours a day.
That's
So
so awesome. And so since you're a flight instructor now, you can actually take people who are training to become a pilot, and you can be their supervisor inside the aircraft, right?
yeah, so if you have a logbook, which you log all your training time and to put it towards a certificate, I could actually sign my name and sign my flight instructor number in your logbook. So I'd endorse your training, and so if I could take you up in a plane and give you training, and that'd be legal training towards a certificate. So
That's awesome. And what's an
yeah.
hourly wage look like? Does it depend on if the person's your friend or not? What's this whole picture look like?
Yeah, so I mean, if it's a buddy of mine, if it's like a one-time thing, obviously, I can't spend a whole bunch of time giving out free flight
I
because it
get
will be
for
my
sure.
full-time job. But like, if I were to take a friend up, I wouldn't obviously charge them for my time. So a plane is about like $170 an hour, and then but it's about $60 an hour for an instructor if you like were to actually pay for it. So the price definitely adds up. It pays off in the end, especially when you get all these hours and then you start making money while building time. But yeah, if I were to take one of you guys up, it would be if you were to go up just for an hour with me, it'd be like $160 because legally I wouldn't be able to pay for the plane. You guys would have to pay for the plane, but I wouldn't charge you. It'd be pro bono for the instruction.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's not really what my question kind of curtails to though is the idea of like when you're up in the plane with a student, are you
Yeah.
like basically training them, telling them what they're doing correct and wrong as a flight instructor too, just to make sure that, they're not missing any procedures or anything?
Yeah, so like what I did for my primary training with my instructor, I'm going to be doing that exact same thing. So I'll be the instructor. I'll be teaching them. I'll be able to teach private students that are just coming in, and I'll be able to teach commercial pilot students, which are more experienced, getting more perfection in their maneuvers and stuff. So it really depends. But yeah, I'll be critiquing. I'll be demonstrating different maneuvers that they need to do to pass their check ride to get their next license. So I'll be that guy they'll be relying on. I'll be ensuring their safety and making sure they'll be looking to me to for answers and for guidance.
That's
That's
cool.
awesome.
So
So,
And so
yeah,
you can go for it.
your multi-engine rating, is that what determines what like the size of a plane you can fly? So like I'm guessing you need a certain rating to fly commercial like big jets compared to
right.
like a small cargo plane, right?
Yeah, your multi-engine rating. You just have to do some training. So instead of obviously that single engine, you got two now. So you got two more engines to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So you got double the chance of an engine failing. So you got to make sure that you're got that training down pat so that you're going to be safe and efficient if there were to be an emergency. So you get that multi-engine so you can fly those smaller twin engines, but
Okay.
you still need to build up time, build up hours, and get type ratings for each individual plane. So if you were to get type rated in a jet, you'd have to get specific training in each airplane that you're flying in.
Okay.
So I couldn't just hop in a 777, for
Yeah.
American. Like I'd have to build experience and then do the training properly.
Yeah.
And then
But
also,
it's
I'm
yeah,
assuming when you're going to college, you said you're getting a degree on top of this training. So it probably puts past anyone who's just going to flight school. Like if you wanted a job in management down the line, working for like American or any other type of airline in the commercial industry, it probably puts your resume slightly above because you've already had a degree in something that was related in the industry. Am I right on that?
yeah. Yeah. So when you get a degree for aviation specific, it's nice to have that management tag to because you took those management related courses. Because one of the biggest things, the biggest risks having in flying is that it's all medical. So if
Yeah.
you get diabetes or you lose your eyesight for whatever reason, some freak accident, you're not qualified to fly anymore. So you got to have that backup plan to be okay. You got that management tag. So my plan was to be a career pilot and then retire when I'm 65 and then be retired. But that could change. My grandfather flew for American and he was diagnosed with diabetes, so he lost his medical and couldn't fly. So he had to go into like real estate because he didn't have a backup really. So he had to work hard to get back into a new job.
Jeez.
Whereas, so that's kind of the gamble with having just that flying like operations major, because you're putting yourself ahead in the pile for jobs in flying, but you don't really have that fallback. So that management is kind of nice to have because you can look for management jobs in aviation. So
Absolutely. I was also thinking from like a perspective at like 20 years down the line. If you're thinking,
right,
maybe I've flown enough commercial flights. Do I really want to get into management? Maybe settle down somewhere. I was thinking it would be like a cool, um, like addition to have and like
yeah.
added
I
to the
mean, you never
training.
know. You
So
never know where you're going to be in 20 years. So
yeah.
Yeah,
it's definitely a good thing to have.
for
Yeah,
sure.
forward thinking right there. Uh
Right.
what's your favorite craft to fly that you've flown so far?
Honestly, every plane is different. I did most of my training in a Cessna 172, which is a high wing. It's like a tin can with wings, we
Yeah,
call
I've
it a
seen those.
dumpster that flies. But yeah, so I've been flying a Piper Cherokee down here, which is nice. It's a low wing. It just feels more like a plane that you'd really think about. You got to see the wings, and I don't know, you're cruising a little bit faster, so it's a better feeling. And
Yeah.
then hopping into that multi-engine, you're going, you got two engines, so you're going a lot faster. You're just, cruising through the air. It just feels really cool to upgrade. You put a lot of that work in, and then you finally start to see different results and
Yeah.
move up. So it's cool.
What's the
But
fastest you've ever flown?
what's the fastest I've ever flown?
Yeah.
I'd say about like 160 knots over the ground, which is about 180 miles per hour.
Okay.
But
Damn.
it really depends on the winds, because if you think about it, when you're up at altitude, winds are a lot faster. So if you have a tailwind, so the wind's blowing you from behind, not blowing me, that sounded bad, but it's coming from behind.
We're familiar.
It's pushing you a lot faster than if it was coming from in front of you. So
Yeah.
that also helps a lot. So if you got really strong winds, you can look at your ground speed and be like, holy crap, like I'm moving.
Yeah.
I was gonna
So
say because I've noticed a lot of times when you're flying, it'll say for like if you're taking a flight one direction, like against the wind, it'll literally add like a lot of time on it. Like it'll be like a couple hours longer if you're taking a flight that goes against the wind as if you're going with it.
Yeah,
So that I'm
actually,
sure
so
has a
like
yeah,
lot to
one
do
of
with
the
it.
if you're flying to like Europe, like London or the UK, right? Like I know like the Gulf of Mexico also follows this path where it comes down and then goes up to the UK through the Atlantic.
yeah,
But like the winds there are also they carry you faster, so the flight there is like 2 or 3 hours
Yeah,
shorter than the flight
shorter
back.
than the flight back.
yeah. I mean, they have a lot of like the direction of winds is pretty common. Is standard. Like winds usually flow from the west to the east. Just that's
Yeah,
just usually how it is with jet streams and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So a lot of
yeah. I think
airlines
the
have
jet
to
stream
plan
is
on
west
that.
to east. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a big thing, and that's one of the biggest things that airliners kind of look towards when planning efficiency and performance and stuff is the winds. Like what's the best altitude to fly at, where the winds are going to be most effective in like helping them, I guess.
Yeah.
what
So
altitude do you typically fly at?
it depends. I would say the highest I can fly it's about 10,000 feet because once you get
Oh,
higher up, you're going to need supplemental oxygen so you don't
yeah.
pass out. But I would
Yeah.
say on average like 5,000, but it depends like on the cloud layer because so you're not flying in the clouds if you don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Do
I
you
and
think
get a
because
lot more resistance from clouds, all the moisture or something?
not really resistance. Honestly, it was cool. My instructor down here, since it's really hot, so you're not going to pick up any icing on your wings and stuff. You can stick your hand out of the window while you're flying if when you're in a cloud, and you literally take your hand back in, and it'll be soaking wet just
Wow.
because of all the water vapor that's in the cloud.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
that
and
is cool.
it's
That's
just
cool. Yeah.
turbulent.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
was gonna say, I know commercial airliners, they typically fly around like 30,000 feet, I believe, like kind of up in the
no,
stratosphere, like above the troposphere, which is where most of our weather happens, like most of the clouds. And I've heard that
yeah,
like a lot of pilots, I don't know if this is the same with you, but they typically like to kind of either fly like significantly below, like where a lot of the weather's happening, like the clouds, or they like to fly above, because when you're caught in the middle, you get a lot of different like currents and like you get like it causes turbulence basically like you risk getting more turbulence.
yeah. The air is pretty unstable when you're in the clouds. Like it's moving all directions. So like when you can kind of anticipate even when you're in the airlines and you like say you're a passenger just sitting in the back. If you're looking out the window and you see that you're going through a cloud, you can expect more bumps and stuff like that. So when people start freaking out when there's bumps, like kind of look out and be like, "Oh, we're just in a cloud. It's no big deal."
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
that's a cool
usually what
tip.
happens and stuff.
So if you're not in a
Yeah.
Yeah.
cloud and there's turbulence, that's when you start freaking out.
Well, I've heard of
Yeah,
that
I
too.
mean,
I've heard there's something called like clear air turbulence, which happens like when it doesn't happen when you're going through the clouds. It happens just when you're going like straight, and you can be even above the troposphere. You can be above the weather, and it could still happen. And doesn't that comes from like currents, like hot and cold, I think, or something like that. I've heard it
yeah.
happens
So like,
more when it's hot or something like that.
yeah, when there's uneven heating in the Earth's atmosphere, it can cause a lot of instability in the atmosphere. So that can cause a lot of turbulence like that.
Yeah.
So it can really happen anywhere. I mean, you're in these airliners that are built for this stuff. Like, they got so many regulations going in that making sure that nobody's dying. Otherwise, no one would be flying. So I like to tell people you have a better chance of getting struck by lightning than dying in a plane crash. So
Yeah.
just think of that. The pilots want to get home; they don't want to die either. So they're gonna do everything they can.
No
They
kidding.
do a lot
Wow.
of training. So
Yeah.
yeah, you got to think of that.
Yeah.
So
No, it's the
So
safest way to travel. So.
I have one
yeah,
last
it is.
question if you guys want to move on, but so I know like in piloting, like I think like probably the most like sought after and best benefits is probably commercial flying, but
Mhm.
what do you think about like private cargo shipping and like private charters? I feel like those must be a little more fun to fly because you're lower, so you get to see the landscape and the beauty of everything.
Yeah, you're talking like as a career pilot doing
Yeah,
these stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, so I think commercial long-term benefits are really good. you get a good schedule as you increase in your experience and your seniority. Seniority is everything in airlines. So
Yeah.
as you increase in seniority, you get better pay, better schedules, better trips, stuff like that. But I've always been interested in corporate and in charter life. Like once I finished becoming a flight instructor, I wanted to work for a small charter in Portsmouth called PlaneSense.
Oh, cool.
And they fly single engine turboprops that fly about 20,000 feet. And so I got a buddy that flies for them right now, and he's flying to the Bahamas like every other week, and he's spending a couple days down there, like living life.
Wow.
And so I'm like,
So
that's what I
awesome.
want to do.
Yeah, that's sick.
So
That sounds dope. Yeah.
yeah, but like pay is not 100% like where you want to be long term, but to build experience and then go to a regional and then to a commercial airliner to build time, that's ideal.
Yeah.
And then, if I get bored or if it's just don't think it's for me, look out, try to get connections for maybe some rich celebrity needs a pilot on their private jet,
Yeah.
That'd be pretty
Yeah,
cool
that's-
too.
That
Go,
would probably be
That
fun.
would be
Good
sick.
idea.
yeah, go
That'd be
party
awesome.
with Leonardo DiCaprio or something, that'd be pretty cool.
Go do some spins in a Gulf Stream or something.
Yeah, I wish, right?
Make bets with them, like how fast you think I'll get you there. Like,
Yeah, exactly, right?
All right.
You give me a
so
couple
I think,
martinis, I'll let you fly the plane. Right?
and then actually, yeah, this is my last question for the interview. Is so what's next for you? I remember we talked about it before we started the show, but what is the end goal for you? Where do you see
Yeah,
yourself?
the same question.
in the pilot?
Yeah, my end goal, it's kind of up in the air. I'm only 19, so I'm kind of feeling things out. But I'm thinking commercial's probably end goal. That's the most stable. Once you get more experience, you'll have more time home with the family, hopefully. I'll start a family. But, obviously no rush. So do the fun stuff now while the schedule is kind of less forgiving.
yeah.
And maybe settle down and try to get a good spot, a good base, because it's all about commuting. Like the good thing about being a pilot is that you can live anywhere in the world as long as you get to your flight. So, for example, like my dad, he lives up in New Hampshire, but he commutes down to Newark, New Jersey every single time. It's 5.5 hour drive or 5 hours of traveling if you were to fly. But he knows buddies that live in New Hampshire and they commute to San Francisco every single time before they fly. So they just take a flight that way.
Yeah.
That's not what I'd like to do. That's not what my dad wants to do, but that's a really cool thing to be able to, go anywhere. You don't have to talk to a boss unless you mess up. So don't mess up. And then,
Then the bureaucrats
so-
come in.
yeah. So I guess end goal, airline pilot, make that funny money, buy myself a nice plane for myself and fly around the country. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
We'll stay updated on the course of your successes too. We're gonna go
Yeah,
into the
man, I
next
love it.
topic.
Awesome.
All right. So we're gonna start off with Neuralink. This is one of Elon Musk's small startups, I should say, because I consider this is in the same class as like Solar City and the Boring Company, a little bit smaller than the likes of Tesla and SpaceX. But so Neuralink is essentially a chip that's going to be inserted into your brain with super microfine fibers that are 1/10 of the size of a human hair. And it uses a precision, what would this be called? Inserter. It's like a kit that would insert these into your brain through a small hole that they'd use a scalpel to remove. And what this technology is going to be used to do is to try and get muscle coordination back to people who have limbs that no longer function correctly and people with brain damage to try and get them enhanced abilities in certain regions of their brains that have been affected by their diseases. So he announced this technology in 2016 with very few details. It was essentially marketed as an interface directly with computers using human brain, and it's more versatile than implied. And then Elon Musk said this as a direct quote. He says, "My assessment about why AI is overlooked by very smart people is that very smart people do not think that a computer can ever be as smart as they are." He added, and this is hubris and obviously false. He believes that AI will eventually learn to be smarter than the human race, and since computer power is doubling every 2 years, he thinks that this is going to happen a lot sooner than experts in the industry project. So basically, right now, what Neuralink is being marketed as is something that people with disabilities can use to try and get certain regions of their brains that are affected by brain damage to function properly. But long term, what Neuralink's end goal is to enhance human cognitive function, increase our IQs, and I think what it will probably end up doing is making us a lot more robotic, more focused, more reasoned over time. It's probably a long time a lot further away than we think currently. Probably 5 to 10 years till we'll see actually developmental progress with the product or anything that looks promising. Right now, it's basically just in a lab taking samples from animals' brains and people with disabilities to try and study brain patterns. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in the long term with the technology.
So leaving like possible dystopian futures to the side, it's basically to help like boost nerve power and like nerve signals for now.
It's essentially what it's going to do is try and increase communication between neurons inside your brain and help understand what different neurons and different sections of the brain do.
Wow.
And then how to enhance their performance.
It would have to draw power from somewhere, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's the coolest thing about your brain is that your brain can actually power the device because brains have small electrical charges inside of them. So it'd essentially be part of your body.
Yeah, wow. That's
But he thinks the technology is 5 to 10 years away.
You guys think you'd ever try that out? I don't think I'd ever, even if it advances in the next like 30 years and I can afford it. I don't think I'm doing that.
I would.
Bro, there's no way I'm putting some shit in my brain. That's how every fucking like movie starts where the government
that's how
starts
like Brave New
people.
World happened.
You guys are like scared of the mark of the
they become
beast.
Zombies.
Yeah.
You guys think this is some biblical prophecy?
I don't
like
want
the mark
China
of the
and
beast?
Russia hacking into my brain. Fuck
Into
that.
my brain, bro, making me one of their soldiers. Hell no, I'd kill myself before I do that.
Be like the
I
Winter
think-
Soldier, like they send in like a type signal, like a bunch of code words, like red ship.
You guys don't have enough.
Then you
faith
go on a
in Elon
murder
Musk.
spree. You just go and murder people after that.
We don't have enough faith in Elon Musk after all he's done so far. Is he even human?
No, it's not nothing to do with
No.
Elon Musk though, man. I'm just saying like that. There's
I
a
wanna get my
valid point
hands-
with like hackers.
As a medical product in terms of enhancing like nerve function, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, like I especially like
agree
it
with
for
that.
people who have either brain damage or disabilities because the fact that you can get nerve function back is super cool. The fact that he's pitching this first as something that can actually be used as a cognitive enhancement for those types of people is only going to make development of it probably increase faster since
it-
there's going to be
if
more
it
of an
succeeds-
emphasis on innovation on it.
I think it's a great idea if it like stays with that usage. Like if it remains like something only for.
Oh, you don't want
people
it to
who
be
need
like humans like
I don't want it
looking
to
at
be
a
like
wall
Google
with like an
Glass or
internet
something.
browser.
Yeah, I don't want it to be like Google Glass or like some shit that everyone
Black
has
Mirror,
to get. Like
Black Mirror shit.
Yeah, I just
I
want it
looked
to
it
be
up
like
on.
some.
You
Yeah.
can read other people's minds.
Yeah, I looked it up
Fuck
online. It was like all like the headings were just like, oh, it's gonna get hacked. Like it's open for hacking.
For
I'm like, all
Skynet.
right, never mind. Like I'll try his flamethrower first, and then we'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah. It's actually
do trust Elon
it's actually
Musk
a
more than-
heating device.
A heating device, right?
I
so
trust
he could sell it.
I trust Elon Musk a lot compared to most entrepreneurs, though.
Oh,
and his
yeah, well, I
commitment
do too.
to make
Yeah.
products work and function properly.
His idea is definitely he has like ideas that are like unmatched by anyone else in the world.
Well,
It's
he
just,
has
like, it's just a matter
execution
of how-
behind those ideas as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, he
what
does,
makes
too.
it different.
That's what I'm saying. It's also just like a matter. It's just like I said. I think it's a great idea, and I think it's something that could be very effective to people who do suffer from like neurological disabilities. I just think it should stay as like a medical tool. It shouldn't be something that we start like selling to people.
I think
Yeah.
it depends, though. I think where the research gets blurry is how long down the line still they start doing developments on actual like humans with no diseases.
Well, I think
Like, what's going to happen then? Like, are they actually going to implement it large scale if they can?
Realistically,
be a
it's
weird
probably
time.
going to be solely for the medical field for a relatively long time. I could see it like if it succeeds in terms of implementation, it could probably combat like Parkinson's and like Alzheimer's probably at some point.
That'd be cool.
That
That'd
would
be
be
awesome.
really
If we
cool.
That would
Parkinson's
be,
is
yeah.
awful. I hope I never get Parkinson's. That would suck.
Yeah,
yeah, agreed.
that's true.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants that.
Yeah, good point.
What was I gonna say?
I see my hand shake sometimes. I'm like, oh god, no.
It's starting.
Going away.
Got to drink water, stay hydrated. You know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking
Yeah,
of
but
Elon
beyond
Musk,
I take that vitamins.
Oh yeah.
what were you saying, Jake?
Yeah, what about it?
I was gonna say beyond that, I feel like if there's anyone who has the determination to get it done, it's Elon Musk, because I feel like this project seems completely unreasonable for any normal person, but like Elon has defied every odds or all the odds with every project he creates now. So
He's like a
mean, it
perfect
does-
example of like
he's an industry
entrepreneur,
disruptor.
You know?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
is.
he's an industry disruptor everywhere he goes. He's
He,
like, all
He
right.
fails and then he just tries again and until he succeeds.
He has
The other
this
thing
great.
is, I feel like
It's cool.
He has this great graduation speech that you can watch the YouTube video online. I don't want to like send his message and mess it up, but it's about like finding meaning in life, and like he talks about how like he went broke between like SpaceX, Tesla, and Solar City, and like he just committed, and now they've finally worked out.
yeah, it's crazy. And actually, I just wanted to add this in at the end. So Tesla's actually working on a solid state battery too with lithium ion inside of it. So right now, the electrolyte that is neutrally charged inside of a battery is liquid, and they're coming out with a new version that's going to be solid instead of liquid. And apparently, it's more effective. It can be charged more times, like it's more efficient over the long period of usage, and it increases with capacity. The only problem they have right now is scaling it up, because they can make it in a lab, but you have to make sure you can do mass scale production without any errors before you actually create this on a mass scale. And so
is
this
it,
would like
is it
revolutionize.
heavier or
No, it's actually lighter. That's the craziest part about it, is like
Oh.
batteries, as you know, like car batteries would get lighter. And it's one of the biggest things, like boat batteries right now, they say are super heavy and it's hard to have an electric boat. But with a new technology, you'd have a smaller battery and a higher capacity inside the battery.
This is
with
what
less weight.
gigafactories
Yeah, I'm
are
thinking-
for.
Yeah, with higher energy density too. So that's like what the next generation of lithium ion is going to look like. And of course, who's the guy behind making sure this innovation happens? Elon fucking Musk. Like it always
yeah.
is.
To bring planes into that real quick. I mean, if you had a lighter battery that can last longer, I mean that
Higher
looking for
capacity.
electric
Yeah.
planes and stuff like that, like that would be
I
that's
know.
ideal.
I want him to make
Trying
an
to find
entrance.
that.
I want him to make an entrance. I just don't think the technology's there yet for electric planes, at least to
Combined
compete
with
with
the-
normal planes.
On top of batteries becoming lighter and more efficient, 3D printing has gone into the realm of vehicles. So World Economic Forum posted a video of, I forget which university did it, but they 3D printed like a boat out of like a reinforced
Oh, I
I
plastic.
saw that.
Yeah.
I
It's
did
really
see that.
cool. It looks like that thing is probably fast because it's probably light, like super light.
It looks like one of those 1960s, 70s Vietnam like passenger aluminum boat type deals.
No, it doesn't look
Kinda.
like an aluminum boat.
Yeah, it was the University of Maine that did it.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it. It was kind of
It's-
boxy.
it's like
an
black.
aluminum
It's like a Minecraft boat.
It's like
Like a
strengthened
seal, like a
plastic.
Flex seal.
Yeah.
Flex seal.
Yeah,
But that's like a Billy Mays dream boat.
Anyway, I think
Yeah.
that wraps it up for my topic with Neuralink. That's basically all I wanted to cover.
All right. So we want to move it on to Abby. You gotta talk.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So speaking of explosions in your mind,
That I
Too
guess that's
soon?
as good of a transition as we're gonna get. Actually, we
Too
can
soon?
transition. Speaking of boats,
That's true. Actually, that would have been better.
it was a
the
boat.
the explosion in Beirut recently was caused by 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate being improperly stored in a warehouse. So what actually caused the explosion, I believe, is that maintenance was scheduled on that port that day near that warehouse. And they had to weld something. Like something was broken, so they had to weld something together. And it set off this chain of fireworks, which I don't know if they were in the same warehouse or nearby. But because of all those fireworks getting set off from the welding, it basically activated 2,700 tons of ammonium nitrate. So, what happens with ammonium nitrate over time is it. I'm not sure what kind of what state it's in terms of matter when it's first made, but it becomes more and more solid, and as it becomes more and more solid, it becomes more reactive. So like the reaction gets worse. Uh, so basically, the boat that was carrying all this ammonium was a Russian ship sailing from Batumi, Georgia to Beira, Mozambique. So it's really just this guy that owned a cargo ship was running low on money. So he found a supply of ammonium nitrate and wanted to sell it for farming and fertilizer in Africa. The thing is, the guy was like pretty much bankrupt. So the ship, he said he told them dock in Beirut to pick up this piece of machinery that will help pay for port fees when you get to Africa. The thing is, the machinery they were supposed to pick up, the captain said it was too heavy. They couldn't take it. So on top of not paying the port fees just for docking in Lebanon, they also didn't pay fees for like holding cargo and then leaving cargo there. So basically, because of that and the dangerous nature of ammonium nitrate, Lebanese authorities were able to seize pretty much all the ammonium nitrate on the boat. It was actually a big like international relations things for a bit because 3 of the members of the crew were held against their will on the boat because of Lebanese authorities. And this happened in 2014, actually. Yeah.
Karma's a bitch.
Really?
Yeah.
Where was the crew from? Were they Russians?
They were Russian. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The crew is Russian and the
Oh,
owner was
Russian not
Russian.
paying for something.
That's really surprising.
But yeah, basically it's just a tale of like it's just complete like
Negligence.
coincidence and circumstance, negligence on part of the Lebanese authorities. So moving forward between 2014 and 2017, customs officials, so the port general manager was Hassan Koreitem, and the Lebanese customs official was Badli Daher. And basically, they sent requests to a judge of urgent matters in Beirut 6 times between 2014 and 2017, and nothing happened.
That's really bad.
So I was like,
Damn.
just from reading these news articles, it's clear to me that there's at least one guy responsible, and he's a judge. I don't think anything's gonna happen to that guy. Do judges get prosecuted ever? I fucking think not. No. Like,
That's true.
Maybe when it's an international affair, I guess. Might
yeah,
have more heat on them.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
the only thing I can say is like I don't know too much about it, but it seems like willful ignorance by the government of Lebanon because the fact that the Port Authority issued statements 6 times or tried to get their attention 6 times and did nothing about it, didn't move it off the docks that are
Yeah,
responsible for a huge amount of the nation's commerce. When they are highly flammable materials, it just strikes me as a government's failure to its own people.
100% it is. And if you actually, so BBC and Al Jazeera are where I got all this information, but BBC actually has the captain on the ship at the time, like the guy who was captaining the ship, and like
Damn.
he came on and did an interview, so that was pretty cool. But
That's awesome.
basically, on top of just pure negligence in terms of the courts of Lebanon, the investigation is also finding a ton of like corruption when it comes to Port Authority in Lebanon. Like they're finding schemes about fees where people are like getting ripped off or not reporting things correctly. There isn't much out about that, but like there was some stuff about it. So that'll probably advance as the investigation goes on. And my prediction is they're gonna nail some like mid-level Port Authority guy, while the actual people that should have been charged are probably gonna get away with it, like that judge.
Alex,
No, I
can
agree.
you step in because I do know that there were government officials that stepped down. What happened this week with that?
Yeah, so just I think this morning like a news story that came in is so yeah, there's been a lot of like right after the blast. Well, there were already ongoing protests because of the corruption that they've had for this like government that's been in there at least 10 years now, and it's just been like a downhill. Like Lebanon is like probably the most developed one of the most developed countries in the Middle East, but their currency was really valuable, and then all of a sudden it just plummeted and by like 70%. So there was already these
Jeez.
protests going on, and because people just like they just kept having to pay for shit, and the money was worth nothing, and they would have to pay for like stupid shit. They taxed them for like electricity and like water and stuff that like for like normal like basic needs in like a developed country. So they
Jeez.
had like all these protests, and then once after the negligence by like the government not moving the ammonium nitrate away from the port, that like not only fucked up a part of the city but also like the economy because they rely a lot on shipping. So there was these protests going on in the city, and a lot of people like apparently government buildings were getting attacked, and then eventually a lot of since everyone was blaming the government as they should, the prime minister and his cabinet stepped down. Hassan Diab, he's like stepped down, and he's only been in there for 6 months too.
Oh, jeez.
Like
I
him
saw a video
personally.
of him like picking up Lebanese flags from the ground, and they were like, "This is how he contributes to the cause."
Yeah, literally. He was only in there for 6 months though, but he's not the only one who needs to step down. Like that's a start. Like the president too, Michel Aoun, he's been in there since like
That might be the guy.
2006, and he needs to step down too, and at least
Yeah.
in my opinion, because it's just like an old corrupt system.
It
Like
seems like
people
the
just
fall of his currency happened completely under his watch.
yeah, no, it has been. It's just like yeah,
And actually, if you think about it, like this explosion has actually led to more injuries and like deaths than just from the explosion, in terms of like protests are getting more violent and like more people are joining them. So more and more people are getting injured just from those protests. And that's, I think, on top of the previous like I don't know, on top of the previous like shit that people have been dealing with the government, this is just making matters worse.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, they need to get rid of the government completely. I think they need a whole political reform like they've had in like several other countries in the past few years.
yeah.
I'm
Like
thinking
with
of
the
a country
economic
who could use
crisis.
it.
Where,
I know a country that could
where
use a similar
specifically?
revolution here.
Yeah, I know, dude. Because I was gonna
Yeah.
say that's always what happens when you get into it. And when you saw like the economic crisis with Greece, for example, they like kicked out all the old corrupt people from the government who were holding them back.
Yeah.
Like that's what happens. That's what happened with like the in Egypt too with their
Yeah,
president in
Egypt.
2011.
There are
We
very
need
few
an-
revolutions that actually work, and I think Egypt is one of
So
them,
stagnant.
honestly.
Yeah, Egypt and Greece is, and also the Velvet Revolution in Armenia that worked a
Yeah.
little bit. I mean, it worked
I don't
pretty
think a
well. There's still
revolution would work
corruption.
here. I don't think a
No,
revolution
no
would
way.
work here. No chance.
Too many people, too many different ideas.
All you need to
Revolution
do
would
is
be like France
establish
here.
a third party, add term limits.
Yeah,
and
let's
change
just
campaign
establish a
finance.
third party, whatever, no big deal.
Yeah, it's like that's so easy to do. It's been proven.
Yeah. No, the way
Yeah, no,
that
you
happens
do-
in America is a group of billionaires establishes a lobbying fund, calls it a super PAC, and dumps billions of dollars
Why I
into
said
it.
campaign finance reform.
That's
though.
the way.
Yeah.
That's the way change happens in America. Campaign finance reform is not coming anytime soon.
Same with term limits, dude. That's
Term
like
limits
hearsay in
aren't coming
Congress.
anytime soon either.
You
Maybe
wanna
once
lose your whole Congress.
maybe once younger people come in, maybe they'll be part of the discussion. But I still
No
doubt it.
chance. Fucking no chance.
I mean, most of our Congress is still full of fucking old motherfuckers, like old.
It's always
That's
gonna
what
be
I'm
filled
saying.
with old motherfuckers, dude.
Like
That's
people
what
born in like the
Congress is.
40s and 50s are running this country right now.
But they're what are holding us back. Like that's how you see this in all those countries that I just mentioned too, like in Greece, Egypt, Armenia, Lebanon. It's all like these old people running the country, and they just don't know shit about the modern times, and
Yeah.
they don't know anything about what the people need,
Yeah.
and they just care about like making money and then retiring.
Yeah, corruption's a
It's like
global
who you
issue.
know, not what you know.
Fucking everywhere.
Exactly.
Literally.
Right there, right
Everything.
now.
It's like Putin too.
I think as time progresses here, though, it might things might start heading in the right direction as long as these old senile fucks start getting voted out. You know, we need younger people more in touch with the times to come in.
I agree with that. That's
People who
basically
understand
it. People with new
technology.
ideas too.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Hey, weren't you guys big Andrew Yang supporters? Or I know Jake was, right?
Yeah, I love
Andrew Yang too. Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard were my two favorites.
Yeah.
I think
Andrew Yang would have been a hell of a president.
I think Andrew
Probably
Yang
would've
was
been
he was the only candidate that talked about the displacement and importance that technology is going to have on our economy. No other candidate even raised that topic, and it's a big
Yeah.
deal. It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Like
Did you
entire
expect, like,
industries.
Biden to bring that up?
Yeah, like even doctors are going to start losing jobs soon. Like robots can
all I
read
expect from
MRIs more
Biden-
accurately than a human.
All I expect from Biden now is that he knows what state he's in. That's it. That's it. If you can answer that question.
Yeah, we got senile Biden and egomaniac Trump
Yeah.
to vote for.
What a country.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I
Fuck
just hope they
yeah.
know the date. Like honestly, just get the date right. like what day is
We should
it?
be a reality
You know those
TV
fuckers
show.
are either
Yeah,
calling or
legit.
like handwriting fucking letters because they don't even know how to use an iPhone. That's like the era
They
they came from.
They're
Came
writing
from, like,
ing on like AOL.
Yeah.
That's what
when they
Hotmail.
turn on the
Hotmail.
computer, it's like,
Hotmail.
"Na, na, na, na."
They're having Microsoft XP on their computer.
It's like
Did you hear
Windows
about
95.
Biden? Like he made like this statement about like how like Mexican people are all like diverse and have different
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
personalities, but like African Americans like are all the same.
Jesus
And
That's
he was
what he
like
said.
jumbling his words and stuff like that.
I
Like
saw the
he's
one where he
sounding
said-
crazy.
Yeah,
You're
I
not
just saw
voting
that.
for me if
Well,
if
he
you're
said
black,
that.
you
He
vote
said,
for me.
he said if
some
you don't
shit
vote
like
for me,
that.
you ain't black. He
Yeah,
also
you ain't-
said black
Oh
kids have as
my
much. Or no, he
God.
said poor kids have as much opportunity as white kids.
White kid.
And yet now, like what Ryan just recently said,
Oh
said
God, dude.
like yeah, black people aren't as diverse as Hispanic or some bullshit.
They're
That's
great.
so bad.
Like, literally, he's digging his own grave.
There's this cool Australian show on Netflix called Rake, and it's about this like lawyer who's like a total miscreant, but they also take digs at like politics now. So like they show like politicians that he's pissed off, but like every decision they make to go public with, they have two young interns that report the polling on like how certain storylines would go. So they're like, if you say this demographic will agree with this percentage of people, and then that's how they make all of their decisions. There's nothing about like reform or like helping the country. It's all about how do I stay here.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Trump, one of his tweets, I know they're not the greatest, but he's like calling out Biden for like not even knowing his own reforms, and like he'd get torn apart if he was on the campaign trail right now.
Yeah.
He's lucky he's like stuck in his basement. He doesn't even like know how to find the right words to talk about his own policies and stuff like that.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's not wrong there, honestly.
Yeah,
I will get crucified for saying some of the things I think, but I don't even know how I'm gonna vote this election. It's like it's really I don't know because I feel like I'll like Biden's cabinet more, but who will I sleep better at night with? It's all up in the it's all up in the air for me. Yeah, Kanye, right?
Kanye,
Nah, I would have slept
Kanye.
fine at night if it was Tulsi or Yang, but like now we leave it hanging in the
Yeah.
balance with two Fruit Loops who belong in a fucking mental hospital.
Literally everything they say is just based on social media polls. Like that's
Literally,
all
dude,
these
it's like
guys
a celebrity
do.
show
That's
now.
all they do.
It
What I was
pisses me
thinking
off.
about
They always try to
recently
play to
was-
people. Yeah.
Oh, it's just like what would happen if Hillary won the election? Like how different it might be right now. Like it.
Nothing.
I don't know.
She'd
I
get
don't know.
nothing done.
Well, yeah, even that,
Yeah.
but just like the country itself, like where it's at within like will we have this race reform and Black Lives Matter movement and like what? Because it'd
Why
be
not?
like a Democratic president, so you don't know.
I guess
how
so, but like
different
a
it
lot
would've
of them
been.
haven't done that much for. I mean, not saying Republicans have done anything, but a lot of Democrats have done not much for minorities.
Yeah.
I mean,
like that.
this
I
might
agree
sound
as well.
inconsiderate, but I think the president should be more focused on efficiency with money than any kind of social aspect of life.
Agreed.
Like,
Actually, I feel
that
like
is the
we're
government's
kind of
sole job.
douchebags for our stance
Sole
on
job of the
that.
government is I get all this tax dollars. How do I put it back into the country? That's all that matters.
Well, yeah, because that's
And
like
they
what
do
will
the
help
fucking
those
worst.
people is if
That's
they invest in education.
that's all
and if they
government is
invest in
made for.
infrastructure.
That's all it does. It's like,
That's what I'm
Well,
saying. That's how
the
you help.
problem is people
Yeah.
don't run government officially. They don't, or efficiently. They don't see it as a business. They see it as like this huge bureaucracy. But you have to slash, slash, slash.
yeah.
Yeah.
At least that's
They
like my.
just. Well, I
I
kind of
wouldn't
agree
cut
with that. They
taxes.
see it. They see it as like a whole way to just like. They see it almost as like publicity, like public opinion. But like they don't realize that like the way stuff gets done is just by putting the money that they already have from the people and giving it back to the people.
Like Abi said,
Like by
it's
investing
putting it
in.
into departments where you get higher paybacks from every dollar you spend in that
That's what I'm
department.
For those viewers who are watching
Because
at
our
this point
taxes are
and
way too
thinking,
fucking high.
Jesus
What
Christ,
the
these
fuck
guys
are they
talked
talking?
about this for the last 2 episodes. Damn right, we talked about it for the last 2 episodes because
And we're
this
gonna
shit
talk about it
matters.
for every
Yeah.
episode. 'Cause
Yeah.
You guys are so illiterate on politics.
Yeah.
And all you care about is a fucking Green New Deal.
It takes
when you could be
focus.
working at Tesla solving
Yeah.
the issue out in fucking the desert. But
Yeah.
you're not. You're sitting at home behind your fucking screen and like tweeting about this whole Green New Deal. Go fucking do something.
Yeah.
That's true. Go invest in something, not just like
It's so
reposting shit on
Like
Instagram.
stocks.
Outrageous.
Stocks are great.
Yeah, get into stocks, you lazy fucks.
Stocks are amazing. People are like, oh no, stocks are a gamble. It's like, I think you'd be surprised actually.
To me, it's the people who think that their Instagram stories actually influence anyone's opinions.
Yeah.
Those people piss me off the most.
Bro,
Alright,
because
like-
this is what they'll do. They'll be like unfollow if you disagree, and then just post shit with all their followers who they already agree with. That's what I don't get.
So, speaking
what I
of
think.
getting pissed off about social media, I think it's time for a transition.
Oh, I think it is time.
Yeah.
That works well. That actually works well. Cancel culture, yeah. That's what basically it is. People on social media trying to have power when they have very insignificant things to do with their lives. So cancel culture, I was looking into it a little bit because they call it a bunch of things like call out culture and online shaming, but basically, it's been around for kind of longer than people think, but it's still like a phenomenon that kind of appeared in like the mid to late 2000s. So like yeah, like 2009ish is when it really kind of started, and that's because of people so many people getting access to social media, like Twitter especially, and also things on like Instagram and other social media sites. So essentially, what cancel culture is basically a community of people will basically they think they have a good intention. There'll be a community of people who they'll see like a celebrity or someone who holds power, and they'll say essentially that they're spreading like basically negative influence across people, like they're just being like they're not using their platform for like social justice, for example, or for like something like advocating for social justice. Someone will say something that will be perceived as offensive, and then people will say that they shouldn't hold that status or that platform anymore. So it happens the most to celebrities or people who are like CEOs or run businesses. Basically, that's who they're targeting. So many people have gotten canceled or have been like there's been attempts to cancel them in the past. I mean, some of them, to be fair, have actually been criminals, like Bill Cosby, for example. Like
Yeah.
it's probably good that he's
He probably
canceled.
should have gotten canceled, yeah.
Crystalia should have
Yeah.
been canceled.
Kevin Spacey got canceled, and
Kevin
Spacey.
he was found innocent too.
Was he really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
And he
But
was so
then
good
there's
in
been-
House of Cards.
Yeah, that was a really good show
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it was.
But people like Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein, like it's probably good they're canceled. But then those are actual criminals. Now there's a point where you're basically because apparently cancel culture, it happens with both people on the left and the right, but we hear about it more on the left, people who are say they're social justice warriors specifically. The people basically on Instagram and stuff, and they basically the reason they're saying, like I said, they don't want to hear offensive behavior, but the issue is the controversy is when you cross the line between somebody just being offensive and you're violating the First Amendment or you're violating just people's right to their own opinion. And that's kind of where it gets blurry and it also brings up the question, can people change? So if someone says something that's really fucked up and offensive, but they say it 10 years ago and they've like learned a lot about it, like they probably should have like deleted the post, but say they said it on camera or something, and then they come out and they completely have a different idea about it. Like Kevin Hart, for example, when they said he couldn't host the Oscars because he made a homophobic joke. Like Kevin Hart has openly supported the LGBT community. Should he still be canceled? And then there's been other instances of that where, like they've tried to go after Joe Rogan as well, because he's had people like Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder on his show, and they said that he was spreading transphobia. But was he doing that, or was he just giving them a voice, and he just wanted to hear their opinion, not even saying that he condoned it? Like they've tried to go after him before, but you can't really cancel him because he's on a YouTube podcast. So it's just that's what makes it controversial. And I don't know, what do you guys think about that?
I think yeah, it's cancel culture. Actually, there's a lot of power in terms of I don't know. So there's this TED Talk by John Ronson. He's like this famous he's a psychologist, but he writes these amazing books. He does research into like how like psychopaths can get into positions of power, and like the power of giving voices to everyone through social media. So like he has a couple YouTube TED Talks about like how a tweet can ruin a life. So in the example, it's this lady who holds like a high corporate position, and she makes a joke before getting on a plane and tweets it about like kids in Africa. And then basically while she gets on the flight, her phone goes on airplane mode. This mass like following comes up of like trying to tear this person down because people found it offensive. And by the time she got off the flight, she was out of a job. Like her life was ruined. So like it's like cancel culture is very much like social media has given us this power where like the voiceless now have a voice, and like people of power can be brought down. But at the same time, it's like it's destroying people's lives who do they necessarily deserve to have their lives destroyed.
No, exactly. I agree with that. It's essentially giving people who before didn't have any power a voice to take down people of power simply because they don't agree with them.
Yeah,
like,
and people who have like no authority whatsoever can now they have following, you know?
True. I mean, it's also based a little bit on what's up?
I was just saying that the basketball player that decided not to kneel, and he's like standing for the net. I'm not a big basketball fan, but I was just seeing that. Like, I know a lot of people support what he's doing, but also a lot of people think that he's, a traitor or whatever. So it's kind of just like, is he going to get canceled? And like the same with like what Drew Brees said. And
I was going to say,
yeah.
It's kind of funny because Drew Brees is one of those people. Not Drew Brees, but no, he didn't. I don't think he actually specifically said anything. But what I find funny is, for example, like Fox News, they were just like, oh, like they were like, Kaepernick must stand for the flag. How can he disrespect like Americans who are patriotic and who've defended the country, even though it's like freedom of speech and whatever, and a lot of people
those people fought for the country to defend his right to do that.
Yeah.
Like
exactly. But then Fox News goes, oh, why is everyone shitting on Drew Brees? Drew Brees can have his opinion. Like, don't, like, because people were trying to cancel him for this.
That's so Fox News.
Yeah.
They're all
ridiculous.
propaganda.
It's all opinionated.
Yeah.
It's literally all opinionated, though, cancel culture.
Like,
it's
I
really
think
like
Colin Kaepernick got blackballed out of the NFL. Like, I think he's a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill, but Ryan Tannehill was able to stay in the league until he finally had one good year this past season.
Yeah.
I think this is off topic, though, because if we're talking about cancel culture,
what do you mean?
I feel like
Colin Kaepernick got canceled, bro. He got canceled out of millions of dollars.
That was someone by the right.
Yes, he got canceled
by right wingers, not left wingers.
Why do you think he's out of a job?
Because I don't really think of cancel culture as a right-wing thing that much.
It can be sometimes, too.
It barely goes all ways.
Not barely. That's not exercising their right that often to do it. Because I feel like, at least with freedom of speech infringements, that's coming from the left in censorship.
It happens more from the left, but I think it essentially
What would you call Kaepernick's story, dude? It's totally a loss of freedom. Like, he lost his livelihood.
Got canceled by the right. Yeah, he
He
couldn't
did,
play
but
for
Because some people didn't
Colin
like what he
Kaepernick,
did.
dude, Colin Kaepernick wasn't a starting quarterback when he did that.
Yeah, that's
If,
true.
if he if he was if he was so dedicated to the cause, why didn't he do that when he was starting for the Niners?
Still, it
Why
shouldn't
did he wait
matter
until he was a
because he's
backup?
probably
Well,
scared of
also
like them doing that exact shit
the
that they did to
Missouri
him.
thing didn't happen until then, right? He did it
Yeah.
But
after
even
the.
so, if he was truly caught in his convictions, was it just one event that's changed his mind? Because I feel like it would have
No,
been
but
a.
I
It's
feel like it
To me,
probably
takes a
the
lot of
the real
courage. It
problem
takes a lot of
isn't
courage to
in
do that.
criminal justice is where I see the real problem with that with like the people of color community is like a lot of the times there are petty nonviolent drug charges that put people of color disproportionately behind bars
Well, there's
nationwide.
a lot more issues than that.
Definitely.
No,
Like,
well, it's not just petty drug offenses either. It's a lot of different offenses
they also
that just
get like murdered and
disproportionately.
like without, and no one investigates their murders. Like,
Yeah, because cops do it and they get dismissed of their
not only
charges.
cops, just like murders on the
Yeah, no,
streets, and like
That's
there are
true.
he's talking about
unsolved
murders on the
cases,
street.
as well as cops, both. Like, it's just
No, that's true.
completely like entire loss of life, and just no looking into it, no investigation
Yeah, I agree.
whatsoever.
That's where I think the problem is pretty much linked to criminal justice reform in the U.S. and
Yeah.
it does need to be addressed for
But
sure.
yeah, going back
But I
to
think like a
cancel
lot of the
I was
culture,
social
gonna say,
stuff.
going back with the cancel
it's
culture,
definitely
it
not a
happens.
left or right thing. It's a thing
It's an
that happens
authoritarian.
to
That's where I
anyone.
disagree. I think
thing.
it is a left and a right thing.
I'd say it's
No,
still
it's
more
not.
the authority. Yeah, 'cause I was gonna say the authoritarian left are the ones mainly doing it. The authoritarian,
Yeah, I don't see
the
these-
libertarian
Mainly,
left
yeah. I
don't
mean,
want to do it because they see that First Amendment going down the drain.
I don't think.
Because I would
I
say
think it's
a lot of
more.
authoritarian right. Bro, those Christian like fundamentalist evangelical Christian groups in America, they like to cancel everything.
Yeah, I think
How
it's
much power
more.
do
I
they
think it's
have in,
more
like,
that
actual
people.
media
I
conglomerates,
think it's more
though?
there are
Like, where the hell
radical
did that
people
Trump-
on any side of the spectrum, and when radical people gain a following, cancel culture happens. It's not like a one-sided thing.
Yeah, I
Or,
agree with
like,
that. I do agree though that it happens mostly with the left, but that's what you're thinking of on social media. And like
Exactly.
you're thinking of
I'm saying when
celebrities
I'm
getting taken
exposed
down on
to it.
social media. Abby's talking about like corporations dropping people because
Oh,
they say like Black Lives
corporations,
Matter.
Just as fucking
sports.
bad as anything else. Fox is trash. Don't get me
That's what I'm
wrong.
saying though.
But
That's
I
still
feel like that's their like
culture.
one outlet.
Fox
That and, like,
literally
these-
tries to cancel people all the time. Like,
Yeah, but
Yeah.
with no success.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would say that's different with social media is there's these waves of millions of people that will get behind a cause and then like literally bury someone in the ground. Their whole
Well, that's just
careers.
because that's because somebody will they'll say something, then somebody will like because most people who are like entertainers, for example, like talk show hosts or like even like musicians or actors who are part of a label or work for like a film company, they usually have a company they can attach themselves to. That's why like they've tried to cancel people like Bill Maher, for example. He was on like CBS, I think, and they did cancel Bill O'Reilly. They dropped him from their program.
yeah.
And that's why people like who are more independent, like Bill Burr, for example, or Jim Jeffries, or people who just kind of do their own show, or like Joe Rogan, like I said, they kind of just they since they're independent, they can't
Yeah,
really
they
be
keep their power basically. And
that kind of movement because
Bill
like
Maher
Kanye,
has the protection of HBO, and like HBO gives independent freedom to pretty much anyone creating through HBO.
and they've tried to cancel Kanye like so many times, but like how are you gonna do that? Like he just does his own thing.
They tried
he
to
owns
cancel
his own
LeBron when he did the like I'm more than an athlete thing, but he's too good.
Yeah,
No one can
everybody shut
cancel
up.
LeBron.
See, that's right wingers constantly canceling too.
Yeah.
I just think it's anyone who's authoritarian who does it. Like it's
Yeah.
just an
Well, kinda-
authoritarian mindset.
Well, based on
Oh,
like
agreed,
the
for sure.
NBA, kind of like with the cancel culture, like do you think that if they didn't support that Black Lives Matter movement with like the names on the jerseys and stuff like that, you think they did that because they were afraid of being canceled, or like I don't know, because if they didn't support it, they'd get a lot of backlash, and
Yeah,
I feel
but
like
I
that's
think
kind of like
also
the same thing.
I think a lot of those big companies though, I don't know how much they actually support it. I think they just put that on their jerseys so it shows that they support, and then they get more people, because if they didn't, people might be like, "Oh, we're not going to watch then," and they won't get as much money.
Yeah,
know what
I
I
mean,
mean?
They start like
I
boycotting.
feel like a lot
and
of
stuff.
big businesses and big corporations don't care that much about a lot of those
I think-
issues as they say that they
yeah, I
do.
think with businesses it's a much more strategic move, whereas with with athletes, it's more like they're living a life where they have to live with constant media pressure. So like they make decisions independently for the most part, you know, because they're gonna get criticism just for the way they play and like professionally without doing anything, you know. So
Yeah, and that's the same thing with any other entertainers, like movie stars, like
yeah,
actors, or like musicians, or just any like anyone who gets into activism, like
like I
any
think
other
people like
politician or
famous
public
people.
figure.
I genuinely think that when they take up a cause publicly, like they genuinely care about it. Otherwise, they don't
No, I
really have a
agree.
reason to do that.
Like Leonardo DiCaprio, how he's like so invested in climate change,
Yeah,
or like Bono with his relief in Africa. I feel like that's got to be genuine, like because they started it before, like because they had a cause.
yeah,
But anyways, with the cancel culture, so yeah, recently, there's a lot of these people were going after Ellen recently too because they were saying that she was like rude to her employees or something like that.
That's funny to
Like
me.
there's a sometimes it's like I feel like you can't always like if it's actually something that can be backed up with evidence, like I said, like they're actually doing something like wrong, like criminal or something, or then I think it's fair that they go away. But I think cancel culture just as a mentality isn't productive. It's
No, it's
counterproductive.
destructive in its nature.
It's
That's why like I
destructive
can't
and
if the person's not doing something that's legitimately criminal, like everyone makes mistakes. Like you can't just
exactly
follow
you're never
Yeah.
gonna
someone
learn
around.
otherwise.
Like there's
like one
no
moment
person that's
in
perfect all the time.
one
That's
moment
just like
in a
Exactly.
fact of
person's
life.
life doesn't define their
Define
whole
that.
life.
It's why it's very hard for me to say that cancel culture is a good thing in its entirety. It's really not. Human
Yeah,
beings are
no, I
very
think it's a
varying. We're
counterproductive
not
thing.
always in the same mood. You can catch someone in a bad mood one day and then really positive the next day. It's hard to say that cancel culture is going to bring a lot of positive results in the long term.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's a destructive thing, and it's essentially just to become more and more prevalent because people with social media want to have power, and they want to be able to
It's
take down other
fundamentally
powerful
not
people.
building each other up. It's tearing each other down. It's like
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
cancel
that's what it
culture
is. It's
does.
causing more divide, and it's just causing more like toxic behavior, I feel like.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
All right, are we
Have you guys
gonna
seen
anyone
the
else have the yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I don't know, it's kind of more on the extreme end, but like have you guys ever seen the Netflix show BoJack Horseman?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I've
Yeah,
heard
I
of
mean
it.
I feel like
Never
that's like
actually
kind of
watched
like
it.
an extreme level of like cancel. Like obviously, I mean the main character is kind of like I guess should be canceled, but it shows like kind of the backside of like Hollywood and kind of like
Yeah.
trying to get that cancellation and how like things in the past can come back and to
Wait,
bite
why
you,
the
and it's
fuck?
kind of like
Wait, why is that show? Is it getting canceled?
no,
No,
they
it's
they
like
finished it already. I'm
Oh,
just
they
saying
finished
it's
it.
showing that kind of like that culture where it's like
Oh,
it's more extreme. Like he like should be canceled, but it's kind of like the character itself.
oh,
But it kind of
okay.
shows like how that gets canceled and kind of I
Yeah, I
think they
get
do a good
that.
job outlining that.
Yeah, that show's funny. I love that show.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that show.
yeah. Yeah, that's a great like analogy cuz like it's talking about like famous people having to deal with that constant pressure, you know. And like BoJack's someone that breaks under it constantly. You know, it takes a
Right.
certain
Yeah.
kind of strength to live with fame.
Yeah, and it shows that like these famous people like they go through a lot and then they suffer from alcoholism and
Yeah.
drug abuse and kind of
I
life
mean, yeah, look
behind
at
the
like Mac
screen.
Miller, Kurt Cobain, the Linkin Park guy,
Yeah. Yeah,
What
it's
about
similar
just
like
a
Demi
across
bunch
the
of
board.
Lovato?
Yeah.
Man, Steve will do it ruined her. You guys know the Nelk Boys and Steve will do it.
Oh,
No.
I know the Nelk boys.
Yeah.
Full send. What about who's the other person?
Steve will do it. He's like
Steve will do it.
he does a bunch of like videos like that. No, but he
Yeah, I
just
knew that guy.
What, canceling people?
yeah.
Are they trying
No,
to
well, I
cancel them?
mean, he's like he like takes cancellation and just like shoves it out the window. Like he does not care. Like he'll make jokes like about like race or like abortions or anything like that.
Uh,
But like it's just like his persona and
yeah.
like it's YouTube. So you
Yeah,
know, and
YouTube stars
unsubscribe
like
if you
that.
don't like him, but he doesn't care. So
Yeah,
it's kind of one of
places
Yeah.
like
those. It's
YouTube
nice to
give you the
see where,
platform to do whatever. Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of cool that they can just do their own thing without worrying about being canceled.
Internet.
Dude.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just to
By the
me the
way,
saddest part is like the freedom of speech is like the First Amendment. It's like people can say what they want. If it's shitty and someone feels that it's shitty, beat the shit out of them. Do something
Call them
about it.
out.
But
Yeah.
like, call them out. It's not
Oh,
like
there's this whole new thing. Like, it's like calling out only makes the problem worse. It's like, what
what
kind of
the fuck?
fucking bullshit is that? I've never, like, if you see a problem, don't confront it head on. The way you
Some
solve
mobs of
problems is by
America.
confronting them head on. I don't know what fucking world you're on that calling someone
Yeah.
out when you hear something wrong is not a good choice. Like, okay, I
Because
mean,
they're fucking
it's not
pussies,
always a
dude.
great choice. Like in a professional environment or a networking environment, you're trying to get ahead. Don't call people out there. But like amongst your peers, if you hear something, say something. Like
Yeah,
how else do you expect that person to learn? What are you gonna report him to someone? Oh yeah, that'll make a huge difference. Some guy will show
Right.
up and be like, "Hey, don't do that." Instead, in front of other people, say something and they might get embarrassed. They might learn that their actions
that's the
have a
thing.
consequence.
That's how people used to
Right.
solve problems before the internet. Now we just join a mass horde of millions
Yeah.
and just
literally,
fucking.
literally. It's
Alex,
like a
I
bunch
Your
of
think
mic,
you're
by
sheep.
the way. Your
I think I
mic.
froze.
yeah,
We're
your
gonna go into
video's frozen and
stocks
your mic
anyway.
got robotic.
All right, so stocks. Um, this week I'm gonna go with Disney. Ticker is DIS. It's normally a safe hold, especially over the long term. So its quarterly revenue has been down through August 4th. On June 27th, Disney incurred a net loss of $4.7 billion. Revenue of $11.8 billion was just about 58% of the $20.3 billion that the company reported in the prior year period. But quarter three also included 2 months, April and May, when COVID-19 lockdown shut down many businesses and kept people at their homes. The company's revenue from its parks, experiences, and product segments, which a year ago made up about one-third of Disney's total sales, declined by 85% from the prior year period. So it has been in a free fall during March, and it's been steadily increasing because of its Disney Plus product service, which is obviously streaming for Disney movies and like Marvel's
They
movies.
partnered with Hulu as well.
Did they?
Yeah.
So it's been slowly increasing in valuation in the market. Right now, it's at. Let me check actually. What's Disney's stock price?
Obvious, my thing's still frozen.
Yeah. You're gonna have to
Uh,
leave and come back.
Yeah, so Disney's stock sits at 128 and 79 cents. Its low was in March. It was about at $86. So it's still near the bottom. I wouldn't call it really that close to the top. Um, so in total, it's probably a good play right now because it's nowhere near all-time highs. And after a recovering economy, Disney's probably going to boom again based off their new service, and anything that's generated in the parks will just be surplus. So I think it's a good call right now. I can check if there's a dividend as well. But I think it's only going to go up from its current. Yes, there is a dividend. It's about 88 cents, 1.18% yield per year. So I would definitely recommend the stock.
Yeah. Wow, Jake, I'm surprised you're picking like a big safe stock.
I know,
I don't
right?
think
I
you've
feel like
done that yet.
Disney's a safe stock. I'll go with Disney.
Yeah. So my stock, I guess Jake and I traded places this week because I'm going with the growth stock, Vivint Solar. So I actually had Vivint Solar earlier in the year between February and March. I made a little bit of money, but like I sold it just before it had a huge drop. It actually dropped to $3 in March, and right now it's at $26.50. They do
Damn.
pay a dividend. I think. Let me check. They might not pay a dividend, actually. They're a relatively young solar company.
I'm
So
assuming
what they
not.
do is, no, they don't. So
Yeah.
they install solar energy into like residential homes. And basically, uh, right now they're seeing like this huge spike in their stock price because people are investing in home projects. Like if you look at the winners of COVID in terms of business, it's a lot of furniture and home remodeling places and like hardware places. So it makes sense that Vivint Solar is doing well now. I think they're probably going to end up being worth more than $26 in the long run. I don't really know how to gauge how fast they may go up or when they may go up, but I think it's a cool company, and solar energy has nowhere to go but up, in my opinion. It's just a matter of will this company stay with it as the industry goes up.
You can actually add your kind of just your stock here. I've been following this company called Sunrun,
Oh yeah.
and they merged with another solar company. In the beginning of April, they were at $10 a share, and right now they're up to $47 a share.
Oh wow.
Damn.
Yeah, so once they merged, they jumped almost 150%, and they've slowly been increasing. So the last 3 months, they're up 221% and still climbing. So sadly, I didn't invest. I didn't find out until they were kind of already in their spike. But I mean, solar, like you're saying, nothing but up, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Agreed. That's for sure.
Yeah,
So, and then,
I think green energy is it's something to look out for in the stock market. Like it seems to be doing like it just has these like wild rounds of like super low lows and really high highs.
It's like cannabis. Cannabis has those same curves about them, I've noticed.
Yeah.
Because cannabis was at like an all-time high either last year or the year before, and then it tanked to the bottom. Still around near all-time lows, but it's
I don't
probably going to go
really
back up again.
I don't trust weed stocks.
Same. I
Because
also don't trust them,
there's
but
such a huge black market for weed, and it's cheaper than medical. So even once it is legalized, like people are still like gonna buy for cheaper on the streets. Like, so I really don't see how they're a safe bet.
I feel like it's going to be like with, I wouldn't call it like with alcohol, but I feel like richer people, they'll get their weed from like the pharmacy or wherever their
Yeah.
doctor prescribes it. But
Maybe.
you'll see lower income people still having like a dealer or something.
But I just think like they're projecting this huge market for weed, but most of that market's already being met in terms of demand. So how would their stocks go that high? You know?
Well, they're gonna have to
I
cut the
think, like,
costs.
yeah,
It's long.
yeah,
You have
that's
to
the
cut
biggest
costs.
thing.
Yeah.
More,
And weed is
more
expensive.
mainstream.
They got to spend a lot on red tape stuff, like storing properly, growing properly. They have to make sure all their stuff is logged correctly.
And the government taxing them.
Yeah, a lot of it's cash
Afterwards.
business too, so they got to pay for like truck transports and stuff.
Yep.
All right. So how about you guys want to transition then to lessons of the week?
Yeah. Go for it.
Who wants to start?
Sure.
You can go
You
for
can start,
it.
buddy.
Since you brought it up.
God damn it, bro. I know. Trying to wrap this up. All right. So my lesson of the week. I actually have one. My lesson of the week is be patient when dealing with shit that's annoying. Because if you get all like worked up about it, sometimes it's just not that deep, and you'll just find yourself getting all angry over shit at the.
You
Oh,
you
you
chirping someone right now? Is that
I
what's
definitely
happening?
feel.
I'm
some
actually
fucking
not. I was
tension.
talking about like just doing shit online for Suffolk, but I just realized how perfectly this works out too. But
I was
yeah,
thinking that
be
was a
patient.
jab.
Sometimes you gotta be patient with stuff that just like takes a little while and like
Not too
it's
patient
just
though.
sometimes a little bit. 'Cause
Sometimes
sometimes it's
things just need to be done though.
sometimes shit is busy
But
and
yes,
you're just gonna fucking be like a fool.
patience is a very good lesson of
Important.
the week.
That was
Important
fucking
because you
hilarious.
gotta sometimes shit's just annoying to deal with, like bureaucracy, and it's just people got a lot going on. You just gotta take it step by step.
When you work for the government, you got to worry about bureaucracy.
I
Yeah.
don't like bureaucracy.
You
I don't
definitely
like big
gotta have
government.
patience with the government. All they do is move fucking slow.
Yeah, they do move pretty slow, I will say.
Mm.
All right, who wants to go
Yeah,
next?
I deal with the FAA. I know all about that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Ryan, you got a
They work
lesson?
on island time.
Sure.
You got a
Yeah.
lesson down in Florida? What'd you learn this week?
What did I learn this week? Well, let's see. Well, I mean, I got a good quote that kind of goes off of the patience that Alex was talking about. It's grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So basically, the things you can't change, like don't, I don't want to say don't stress about it, don't think about, but things are out of your control or out of your hands. And a lot of people will build up anxiety and stress. Like, put it in perspective, like I got check rides coming up to get my lightings and my ratings and my certificates, and stressing out. And I guess you can do a lot to control like how much studying and how much you're doing, but in the end, like, you're just there. Like, you can't change like a bad weather day, and you're stressing out that you might not be able to fly or whatnot. So it's kind of just to know the difference of that is really important for mental health and limiting your anxiety, I think.
Absolutely.
I
That's
like that a
great.
lot.
I like that one as well.
Yeah.
All right, who's next?
I can go here.
All
Yeah,
right.
I'll go.
Jake, you go.
Um,
You go.
All right, so my lesson of the week is to not be super sensitive. I think you have to be determined, motivated first before you assume bad intentions in anyone. Most people are very simple. They're just trying to do a job and get it done correctly. Um, Never assume that what they're doing is to try and spite you, and just try and put your best foot forward and give as much effort to the team as possible. If things don't work out, you win as a team, you fail as a team. It's not solely on you. And I think just don't be too sensitive with a loss either.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the problem we see, especially with like cancel culture. It's like a lot of the times people are just too sensitive about something that just isn't really doesn't pertain to them.
Yeah.
They're more worried about other people than themselves and their family.
Exactly.
Just localize it a little bit more. That's what I'm trying to say.
I guess so my lesson of the week, I'm actually gonna preface it with I watched a Kurzgesagt video about loneliness and the effect it can have. But basically, loneliness is a mindset, right? And I don't feel that right
I
now,
was listening on
but
lonely person.
I have definitely felt at points in my life loneliness. So like transitioning from like middle school to high school, I definitely felt that. But then when I think back on it, all I can think of is how fucking stupid was that, because I have a family that loves me, I have cousins I can hang out with, and I've established a great network of friends since then. But at that period of time, watching this video really made sense. So it talks about like when you perceive yourself as lonely, you're seeing things that people are saying that aren't meant to be hostile or untoward as something that is hostile or untoward. I guess so. Like, everyone kind of has moments like that, but when you're lonely, like, or when you perceive yourself as lonely, you do it a lot more. The reason why I never stayed in that state is because I never said no to like going and hanging out and like trying to further my life and make new connections. I'm not afraid to leave my comfort zone. Whereas a lot of people who would describe themselves as lonely struggle with trying to leave that comfort zone. It's a really great video. Highly recommend it. It's on a channel called Kurzgesagt in a Nutshell.
That's a good point, actually. I like that as like a mentality case, because I feel like even with when other people are perceiving you and you think that they're perceiving you a certain way, your brain also like skews it.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's not like how they were trying to.
Like things.
Even if the words were correct, like you're just taking a negative aspect of what they were saying. You're not
Yeah,
like taking
exactly.
it for what it was.
Yeah.
It's a good point. It's a really strong point.
I think a good word to kind of tie all 4 points together is maturity. I think maturity. As you mature, you get that. You grow out. You start to view things differently. You appreciate what you have,
Yeah,
and I think
exactly.
gives you start getting motivation to better yourself and continue, to cherish the ones you love and stuff like that. It's really important to mature, and a lot of people are not maturing and stuck in their cell phones and social media, and they're
Yeah,
sucked
with
in
like
and they're not.
anxiety and loneliness and like
Yeah,
they like when it comes to phones, it's like I feel like it causes a lot of like as people are getting older, it's making it harder for them to move into a healthier mental state.
yeah,
Agreed.
I agree.
Absolutely. Well, Ryan, we want to thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully, we can
Yeah.
have you on again in the future and catch up, see where you are in the
Yeah, man,
process.
it was a pleasure, honestly.
Yeah.
If you ever need flight lessons, let me know. I got you.
All right. Thanks
Yeah, that
so
would be
much.
cool.
Yeah,
Boys,
man.
thank you guys for a great episode. And that's it. That is Straight No Chaser, episode 7.
Remember
Thanks,
to
everyone,
like
for
and
tuning in.
subscribe.
Follow Instagram.
Yes.
Perfect. Have a
Support.
nice night.
All right.
All right,
Peace.
see you
See you
guys.
guys.